So here we are with the introduction to sequences. By definition, a sequence is a series of numbers that are related by a common difference or common ratio. So here are a few examples of some sequences of numbers, and this is asking us what are the next three numbers in the sequence. So what you want to do when you're trying to determine this is you want to look at the problem, and you want to look at the numbers, and you want to look for a pattern. So here in this first example, I have the numbers 2, number 5, number 8, number 11. And as I look at those numbers, I want to think about a few things. First, I want to think, are there any numbers I can add or subtract to each of them to get the next number? So in this particular example, 2 plus 3 is 5. Now, with a sequence, typically you want that same pattern to exist throughout the sequence. So then, does 5 plus 3 equal 8? Does 8 plus 3 equal 11? And if those are true, then plus 3 would be the common difference in this sequence, and that's true. So the next three terms then would be 11 plus 3, which is 14, plus 3, 17, plus 3, 20. Not every sequence is going to be adding. So let's take a look at the second sequence here. We have the numbers 2/3, the number 2, the number 6, and then the number 18. So right away we can tell that this sequence will be a little bit different because there's no number that we can add to 2 to get 6, which would be 4, and then add to 6 to get 18, because the jump is so much larger. So when that happens, then we want to look for another pattern. In this particular case, perhaps multiplication or division, but since the numbers are growing, we'll look at multiplication. Could be the answer. So what do I have? And the 2/3, you could mess with that, but I'm sure that most of you probably don't want to mess with the fraction. So let's look at the numbers that we're more comfortable with. 2 times what gives you 6? Well, that would be 3. Does that work for 6 to 18? Does 6 times 3 equal 18? And in this particular case, 6 times 3 also equals 18. So once you know, in this particular case, it's not addition anymore. So we're talking now about multiplication. So once you know what that is, the common multiple, then you just want to apply that to find the next three terms again. So in this particular case, 18 times 3 is 54. Okay, 54 times 3 is 162. And finally, 162 times 3 is 486. Now, obviously, you could use a calculator to get each of those if multiplying them in your head is not going to happen. And that leaves us to our last example here. We have the sequence 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 8. So we're going to look at the strategies that we used here in the previous examples, where we added in the first example, we multiplied in the second example, and we're going to try to apply those to this third example. So you can see here from 1 to 1, the sequence doesn't grow. But then from 1 to 2, the sequence grows by 1. From 2 to 3, it grows by 1 again. Ooh, it looks like we found our pattern. But when I go from 3 to 5, adding 1's not going to work again. And from 5 to 8, adding 1's not going to work again. So let's retrack and let's find out if multiplying helps. So 1 times 2 is 2, but then 2 times 2 would be 4, not 3. So this sequence here does not appear as though we can add or subtract. It also does not appear as though we can multiply or divide to go from one term to the next. So we have to look for other patterns or other strategies to find the next three terms in this sequence. So I'm actually going to just give you the next three terms and then kind of wait and see who can come up with how we're getting those terms on your own. So the next term here is going to be 13. The term after that is going to be 21. And the term after that is going to be 34. And for now, I'll just leave it at that. And again, I'd like to see which one of you can come up with how we're generating those future terms in that particular sequence. So the last step here is to write a rule for each of the sequences above, and this rule can be in words to start. So this first rule here, we would say that the rule for this sequence would be to add 3 to each term. This second rule here would say that we want to multiply by 3. And this last rule here would say what? That's your introduction to sequences.